start my presentation. Okay, I'm glad you had the overview of the topics because I forgot to put in a table of content. So yeah, so I'll go and do a little presentation part at the beginning, and then I give over to Jerome and then take back over again. Okay, so Helen has already mentioned the Wakelet. I've posted in the chat, so it should be quite at the beginning of the chat. So if you join a bit later, you can just scroll up and it's at the top, and the link to the PowerPoint is there as well, which has a few, especially for the troubleshooting, has a list of all the troubles you might get and how to solve them, hopefully. So the reason why we made this Wakelet is because the last two sessions, we already talked a lot about kind of creating pages and creating teams and so on, but we didn't really get too much about how you actually do your lesson or what a lesson looks like. And we thought that would be really interesting for people, but it also takes up quite a lot of time, and people might have different interests, like different subjects and different year groups. So we're trying to collect some videos on that Wakelet there, and then you can watch them in your own time. And so we could take up a bit more time with that and then concentrate on kind of the technical aspects in this presentation. Okay, so I mentioned this last time, so I'm trying to become a Microsoft trainer, and for that you have to collect 100 people to train. So it would be really helpful if some of you could go to education.microsoft.com. I'll post it at the end as well and put in that code for me, so I get kind of my points. And while you're on that website, I would really recommend looking around the website, because I've got lots of videos that are made by Microsoft, and especially I think it's called Introduction to OneNote for Teachers. That is really useful because it's kind of an interactive video where you can actually click into the video to get to the next part, and it kind of leads you through it step by step, which is really good if you're new to it. Okay, then actually, yes, before we get troubleshooting, Helen shared this with me, so about cloud storage, just to explain why sometimes there might be problems with your pages looking differently from the students. So in the first part of this, we talked about the fact that you basically have 5 different ways of opening your class notebooks. You can use the web browser, you can use an iPad, you can use a standalone app, and there are 2 of them. So there's 2016 version and the Windows 10 version, which is the newer one and the one that we're using. But you can use all of them, and you can use the version that is within Teams. And whatever you do in any of those versions will sync with each other at differing speeds, but normally quite quickly. So within seconds, really, if you write on your iPad, it should straight away appear on the student's screen or on your iPad, on your desktop or whatever. So, but yeah, you kind of need to know how it works. Helen, do you want to explain this a little bit?
If you like, yes. I mean, This is really me talking from the point of view that I didn't quite understand it, why it was that there was a problem. And it is often the source of anxiety when you've put something somewhere and it hasn't appeared. And I think probably it's just helpful as a teacher to understand the language behind it and what is happening and why this is happening, so that you can also calm colleagues and calm students to say, yes, this is expected and this is why it might happen. So I've got 3 slides here, just the way that it was explained to me. So this first slide is explaining what happens when you are using a document which is just on the cloud. It's not on your machine at all. It's just up there in the cloud. So for example, I think quite a lot of us, before we ever came across OneNote and Class Notebook and Teams, I think we were probably, most of us, familiar, weren't we, with using a document like a Google Doc, where you're given a URL, you put it into your web page, you're into your browser, and you're there, and you're on the same page as everybody else. So this little image here is of cloud storage. So Google's got this in the cloud. You're all editing it using the browser, using whatever is on the internet. It's nothing to do with anything that's, you know, it's not local, it's actually on the browser. And you might be using, or you might be using an online app like Word Online. So the picture there is meant to show that you've got the cloud, but you could have one computer, another computer, someone with their phone, all working on the same document, and it's just going up and down. That's all that's happening. So or everybody is just connecting with that one thing which is up in the cloud. All right, so next picture. Again, this is the way it was explained to me, because I did know about Dropbox. Before I ever came to here, I did have a Dropbox. So I suppose in a way I'd already got that idea about there being a place where I could have my document on the cloud, but also have my document within my file structure. So this idea that, you know, you've got something which is there, but also up on the cloud. So what does Dropbox do? It will synchronize files across several computers or mobiles and the cloud, so there's a copy of the file in each place. So I've got my Dropbox, I've got my Word document on my computer, and it will, as I change it on the computer, so it changes it on the cloud, so it changes it so that somebody else who's got access to that same Dropbox can also see it. And the important thing is that if there is a change in one place, that needs to be detected, needs to be picked up, and the latest version has to be updated across all locations. So the image here is of, there you've got their little laptop, I'm working on it. I save it, what happens? It goes up to the cloud. There it is in the cloud, sitting there. And then what happens? It's both of those devices which detect that there's something which has changed, and then they feed into it. So the way in which this synchronization happens, you can understand why it won't necessarily always happen at the same time, because it will depend on the strength of your internet. It will depend on the strength of the internet for other people who are accessing it. So it's almost just being patient and understanding there may sometimes be problems, and this is the reason. It's because it's sophisticated. It really is reading it that way. So I hope that didn't sound too childish as an explanation. It's what worked for me, and it's worked for me now when I'm talking to children to say, yeah, don't worry, it will happen, but you know, there'll be a reason for it. It isn't that there's something wrong anyway. It's just to do with the relative speed of connection. Okay, so I think that's that. I don't think there's another slide. I think that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yes, I mean, we'll come to that in a minute on what to do if your different devices aren't syncing. There are a few tricks you can use to change it.
And can I say, and the tricks are to do with telling it, making it ever so clear that cloud or wherever that there's been a change. You're going to do something, it makes it think, oh yeah, there's a change. So it's almost, what are the tricks for it to go, oh.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got 2 slides of different troubles and how to solve them, but I think I'll give over to Jerome first, and he can talk about a few of them, and then I can fill in the ones that are left over. Do you want to take over first, Jerome?
I can, yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
I stop the share, there we go.
Okay.
But as I said, the list of those ones and the solutions are on the PowerPoint, which if you just scroll up in the chat, you should find at the very top.
Okay, I had done a very, I'm just talking about SharePoint and OneNote and stuff like that, very brief also to explain how things work. So I think it complements Helen's excellent explanation also, right? Can you see my screen there?
Yes.
All right, it's just to explain that you have Office 365, because we're talking specifically about Microsoft. So you have Office 365 and you have Teams and SharePoint and OneNote, or sometimes Class Notebook. They all work together. So let's say that Teams is your window, and where things happen is where you put your things in. But in the background, everything goes into SharePoint, and SharePoint is a safe, is where everything goes in, and it's where all your documents are stored and stuff like that. So that's really important that you have a little website at the background, and where everything goes. You have your OneNote, and you have all your emails and all that stuff. Everything goes into SharePoint, and everything syncs thanks to 365, and they all sync all together. So it goes exactly as like Helen mentioned before that. So there we go.
But can I say, and I think that's really helpful, because I hadn't worked out that everything was SharePoint. In my own head, I've got things as separate. And the way it was proved to me was more or less, look at the browser and actually look at the address. And when you look at the address, and you say, oh yes, it goes to SharePoint. And So I think that's really, really helpful to know.
SharePoint is kind of the brain behind, isn't it? And you have the Microsoft Teams is all the conversations and the window of everything. But in the background, it's all, everything goes into SharePoint. So if you go into a SharePoint for Teams, you can get your emails, all the emails you're sent within the team, and all the conversations you have and all the documents, everything is stored into SharePoint in a safe place. Okay, troubleshooting. It seems that these days, all of us are doing probably lots of troubleshooting before doing starting our teaching. I've had on some occasions today where I spent probably half of my lesson trying to troubleshoot things with children. Oh, sir, I cannot see this. Oh, can you send me this document? Because I don't see that. How do I get there? And it's just unbelievable. So anyway, so we're all troubleshooters at the moment, aren't we? Just a bits and bobs then about the syncing. So this is the team. I didn't want to show the children's teams. I've got I created a team for staff at school. I'm sure they won't be too annoyed if I show their names on the side at one point. It doesn't really matter. So I created an EdTech team where I put all the little tips here and there, some shortcuts and all that. All the stuff that I publish on Twitter usually goes in there. And so they also have access to this. They don't go on Twitter. So that's usually what happens. So we're going to be talking about syncing. So if I was doing anything onto Teams, if I was directly into Teams, not straight into OneNote. Obviously, you have your class notebook. So if I was going to my OneNote here, and I've done some work here with my I've had well, the English teacher there, Alice, has done some French. So there you go. Or created just by me. Hopefully, she's not going to say anything about that. And you want to make sure that syncs nicely and properly. And if you have some issues and it doesn't seem to be appearing on the other side, but there's some very simple things to do. If you go onto files, you have some shortcuts also there, obviously, but you have that nice sync this notebook. Okay, nice and easy. You click on that, and technically all the stuff that you will have done and will be appearing on the other side anyway. You can say j'habite, whatever, j'habite à Shrewsbury. And technically it should be syncing. You can see a little wheel on top there, it just disappeared. It's syncing with the other one. If I go back into my Teams and I go into Alice's content there, hopefully it's there. And if it's not, well, we can just click on that little wheel and I should be able to see it. Obviously in Teams also, I've got that little wheel that I should have here, but it's hidden. So I'm going to have to move that to the side. I click on refresh or sync, and there you go. And it just appeared just there. There you go. So just in front of you. So if things don't sync straight away from one to the other, as beautifully explained by Helen, it's just because it goes into the cloud and says to the other one that, look, it's happening here, it's there. So I'll refresh that page and you will see in a second when everything is back and happy that it just appeared in there. Just by pure magic.
Jerome, can I quickly say something? Because I think you're on a Mac, aren't you?
I am, yes,
so
yes.
I think
it's
a little bit
very good
different.
point.
If you go back to your OneNote, then I can just say how it is on a PC, because on a PC you need to click the name of the notebook. So in your case, EdTech CPD notebook. If you right click on that, then you can on a PC.
I can do that too.
It is as well. Because on a PC, you don't necessarily have the file edit and so on at the top.
Yeah, I just wanted to show the long way. Obviously,
Okay,
you can do the Control S or something. But I didn't know actually you could do that from there. So perfect. Thank you very much. Perfect. So that's one of the little things. Just syncing quickly your OneNote and your team straight away. Even if I was working here, it would be syncing on the other side. I'd just be going on the other side, and it would be working straight away. Let's go to another little one. It's you're trying to distribute a piece of work. Let's try to do that. So go back in here. There we go. So I've put in this page. So you're going to be familiar with that page already because you've just seen it. It's the wakelet. You can see it's embeddable into OneNote. You'll see that probably later with Julia's going to explain that. I want to distribute this page to the members of the team. So let's go to class notebook, and I want to distribute the page, and I want to distribute to the whole group. So your group are created already, but this is, I've created that one before. I want to distribute to all. If you just want to give just to one person, you can do that if you wanted to, if it's a group one anyway. Click on next. I want to put it into handouts, distribute. You can see I've done that one before, and I was practicing, as you should, before doing a webinar. Sometimes things go wrong, so I wanted to make sure that everything was going to be okay. So it should be syncing quite quickly. But I just realized, oh no, I've made a mistake. This is the wrong page. I didn't want to give that one to the people there. There is a good trick that you can do if you go back into distribute page, and you can delete your page. So that's really handy. And you don't have to go one page by one page and then go into everybody's folder. You just go back, I think it was in handouts, next. And that's the one I want to delete. It's going to give me, be careful, it's going to be deleted everywhere. And say, yes, please, I made a mistake. There we go. Now, if I go back into the folders, my pupils shouldn't have that page anymore. Okay, that's nice and easy thing to do. Okay. Are we all clear for now? Am I going too fast? Is that good enough?
It's really good. Can I just ask, on that distribute page, I wasn't watching properly, is it just the most recent that you've distributed, or can you select?
No, as long as you're on the page you want to distribute, you have to go to on the page that you want to distribute, usually. But you can do that on somewhere else. Usually it's what I do. I'll go on this page, I want to give it to someone else. If I was going to another page and I want to distribute it, I'll just do that and go into Teams. Oh yeah, obviously you can do it to OneNote also.
So in answer to Sabine, yes, the answer is you can delete a page from all the student folders in one click, because that's
in one click, yeah, instead of going, because here you have 27. You could have some large classes. Here I've got 27 teachers. It could have been a large class too. So if you have to go into every single folder and you want to erase one at a time, it would be a bit of a waste of time, isn't it? So without one click, and it's quite handy.
So Sabine, you've asked to see that. That's what Jerome just showed us. So what you did was.
Do you want me to do it again?
I think so. Yes, because it's a workshop. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Okay, no problem at all. So, okay, I want to distribute this page to my group of teachers. So I'm on the page I want to distribute. I've created my group beforehand. Obviously, if you want to give it to, I can create a new group if I wanted to, and just send it to 2 or 3 or 4 if I want to do. But here it's the whole group. Click on next. I want to put it, let's say, in notes this time around. There you go, distributes. So now it's going to be thinking, and it's going to be sending it nicely into all the folders. You can even check after if you want to. I'm just by the router, so hopefully it's going to be working quite fast. So if I go into, well, Alice is already there. So notes, there we go. She's already in there, and I go into that page. I can get rid of this. And you can see that she's got the page there. But I realized, no, oh my goodness, this is the wrong page. I've done something wrong. Okay, so class notebook, I'll go back to distribute page, delete page. Okay, it could be any page you want to delete. It could be on different people, but anyway, I'm back. Okay, it's stored in notes. I click on next. And that's the name of the page. There's only one there. You could have several of them, but that's the one I wanted to get rid of. So be careful, you're going to be deleted to that page or from 27 student notebooks, and say, yes, I want to do that. And it's going to be thinking, it's going to be doing a great job very, very quickly. And there we go. You can see straight away the page, this section is empty, it's all gone.
Is that all right, Sabine? Yes.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Happy days. Brilliant. You wanted me to speak about the insert page for student, Helen, is that correct?
Yeah. Well, it was to do with, Julie was saying that sometimes students don't know how to write on the page. They say, well, we've got the page, but I can't do anything with it. So how do you insert typing or draw? Is that correct, Julie?
Oh, yeah. Is that?
That was the problem, wasn't it, that we discussed, Julia?
It's just a question here of obviously when you start creating, if you create a page, let's call it on a webinar, and capital letter, but it doesn't have it. And sometimes it'd say, well, we try to type somewhere, and it's just a question of just typing at the right place, really. And it's very clever.
It's more
because...
a problem when they want to insert a picture, then they need to always click into the page first.
Yes.
I'll show that later when we get to inserting things as well.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's really, as long as you click somewhere on the page, or if you have a picture on the side here, so you can write, just go steer to the right or steer to the left, whatever it is, and just click. And as long as you have your little box appearing that you can move around after, it's just quite straightforward.
Yeah.
Can
I just say, while we're here, Sabine has said something. She said it's off-piece, but it isn't. That you demonstrated how we delete a page when we've distributed it from within OneNote. If we distribute it via an assignment in Teams, is there still that option of retrieving a page, of deleting a page?
I think you can cancel your assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can change your assignment by changing the page. Actually, I did that today. I had the wrong page in it. So if you go into assignment, you can edit your assignment and change the sheets or whatever the attachment that you have in there. It's pretty straightforward to do.
Yeah.
You want me to have a go at that?
Yeah. Shall I quickly say something about that?
Go for it.
I think the way it works is the assignment. There are two different ways of setting assignments. So you can either assign it straight away, and as soon as that happens, it hands out the page. And I think it's exactly like distributing a page. So I think you should still be able to delete it as a page if you just go into the OneNote section. So don't do it from the assignment section, but actually go into OneNote and then do the same that Jerome just did with the distribute page, well, delete a page. And I think it should come up in the list of distributed pages. It's just not the teacher has distributed it, but the assignment has distributed it. Yeah. Or you can set an assignment up so it posts at a point in the future, and then the page only gets handed out at that point. And then, so if you notice the mistake before that point, then obviously you can just delete the assignment because it hasn't handed it out yet.
Yeah, you just have to set the date. If you do it straight away, you can just modify it or something.
I think
if you click schedule at the top in the assignment, then it means you can still make changes to it. But as soon as you click assign, that's when the page gets pushed out. And then, well, the only way is deleting it, creating a whole new assignment, and attaching the right page and so on.
And I'm sure you're right about this idea that you can delete it from within OneNote, because I know that I went to delete a child's page and it came up with a warning. This is an assigned page, or this has been a distributed page. So before you delete it, it's telling you, do you realize you distributed this? So I think that probably goes along with the assignment as well.
Perfect.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
I'm learning too at the same time, because usually when I assign things, it just stays in the assignment. It doesn't, well, I don't worry too much about OneNote. So perfect. It's a win.
Well, brilliant. Obviously does only applies if the thing you've attached to your assignment is a OneNote page. So it wouldn't work if it was a Word document.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was something else that I spotted yesterday, which I think was pretty valuable to be doing also. And I'm sure, Julia, you've got plenty. You wanted to speak about the iPad and all sorts. It was. I do apologize. Yes, something I was trying to do, and it was glitching actually, which was a bit annoying because I'm in a special team and the ed tech, and with the teachers, he wasn't very happy about it. But that's something we're going to have a look into. If I go back into the class notebook again, which is obviously OneNote, it's exactly the same, isn't it? Well, class notebook is part of OneNote. They're all cousins or something, aren't they? So if that's it. If I was making a page, if I was in a page like this one, like a creative file is here, and I wanted to write, I'm just correcting the page and just give some feedback or something. And there was a very valid point there, and said, if I don't want the child or the student to erase the feedback, what can I do? And there's a possibility that you actually can lock the page, and that's really handy. So here, sadly, it's not going to work out. I would need to be getting into my pupils. I tried earlier on, it wouldn't work with the teachers for some reason. But if you go again to class notebook and review student work, if you have a certain page organized later on, you have the option when you're looking for it to lock the page. So if I was going to handout or something, and it will be looking.
It will only work with pages that you have distributed.
Yes,
and that's
obviously,
why
yeah.
you
So
haven't
the
got
pages that
any.
you have given out, and if well, obviously he's not going to find anything there, and you can lock the page. Therefore, your feedback is there. It cannot be erased. It's done. So I thought that's quite a good thing to do. But obviously, if you have written some good feedback and the pupil will be happy and won't be able to erase it. But if obviously sometimes you give a bit of a warning or something, or it's not as positive as because the work is not great, and the child or could be thinking they could be erasing that. But obviously you log the page, and this way it stays that way.
Also, you can do it straight after a test. So if you're doing assignment, I mean, in remote learning, they can cheat anyway, but we're using it in class as well. So for that, it's quite useful that you can just lock it straight after the lesson. So you don't have time to, well, because otherwise the students would have time to change it before you get to marking it. So, yeah.
I think that's it. That's me. I'm sure you have plenty more to say. If I go back onto Zoom and reopen the page for you, if I can find it again. I don't want to stop my video. I just want to be able to go back onto I'm talking there. Sorry, Julia.
That's okay.
I'm showing all the thumbnails. I just want
maybe I'll show the lock as well.
Yes. Yeah. That's good.
Was that okay?
Because I've got a dummy
good,
team here, which I can.
We're just going to see where the lock is again.
Well, just
I'll
do have a
show it
look.
on my screen.
Sadly, I couldn't do it there, but
I can just override you and
please do that. Yes, do that. Otherwise, we'll be here tomorrow morning.
Okay, so can you see my OneNote now? Can you see mine now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay, good. So this is my dummy team here, also with my colleagues in there. So I don't have student names. And I've just handed out just a random page here. So let's say this was a test. So I would go to review student work. And you can do this straight after the lesson if you want them not to be able to make any more changes to it, because you want to see what they actually managed to do during the lesson, for example, or if it's a test. So I think I handed out into the class notes. Let's see what is in there. Okay, so here are some pages I've handed out. So I choose the section, I choose the page. Now I see all my students there. So I could click through to jump to their pages to mark it. But at the top here, you see it says page locking. So I click on there, and I can either select all of them, or I can just select certain ones, and then I say apply. And now I can still write on it. So I can still mark it, give them feedback and so on, but they can only read it. So they can still see the feedback, but they can't make any more changes. So you see next to their name here, it has a little lock symbol, only for the top two, because I didn't do it for him. So if I want to undo it, because they, for example, have to answer to the feedback, I just do the same. I go back to page locking, select all, no, unselect all. So it needs to be empty, and then apply. And now that lock has gone, so they can now write onto their page again. Okay. Is that part okay with the locking?
And we're getting into locks and lockdown, and the word lock comes up quite a lot, doesn't it?
Don't get me started on lockdown.
I mean, if any other, do jump in, any other of the moderators. I'm just saying things that I happen to see there. I mean, just going back a little bit to the idea about distributing pages and being able to retrieve them and that sort of thing. Someone was asking about what the difference is between a page which has been given out via an assignment and a page here. And I suppose the important thing is to know that a page given out by an assignment is still that same page that is here. It isn't. It isn't in some other area. Is that?
Yeah. Something that confused me at the beginning was that I was handing out the page. So I was distributing the page in OneNote and then attaching it to the assignment, which is not what you should do, because then the students end up with 2 copies of it, because the teacher hands it out and the assignment hands it out, and then it gets very confusing because half the students will write on one and the other half on the other. So don't hand out the page, but go straight into assignment, attach the page there, which I think we've done in the last in the last episode, whatever we call it, session. So maybe go back to the video and check in there if you need to look it up.
I think the question though was, what's the difference between the assignment and the notebook? And so I think definitely when I started, before I knew about OneNote, when we were just using Teams, I don't know if that's what the person is asking, but we were using just Teams and assigning Word documents and whatever we had, right at the beginning of lockdown, PDFs, things that we were sending out. So you can use assignment without using OneNote. They're two different, and then if so, I don't know if that's what the person is doing. So you can just assign them a Word doc to work on, and then you can mark it within OneNote, within Teams, sorry, or you can link it to OneNote, and which is what we were just showing. And then you distribute an assignment that they then go and work. It's the equivalent of handing them a sheet and saying them, go and stick that in your exercise book and work on it there, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I've split my troubleshooting section into kind of two different topics. The first one being more kind of the setup of the team and the section, and then the second one being more problems on the actual pages. So one thing that people might be wondering is what happens if a student joins or leaves the class, and how do I get rid of their sections, or how do I add them to my notebook? So if a student joins the class, it's relatively easy, because all you need to do is go into Teams and add them to your team. I hope I can open this now without giving too much away. So you just
Do you want me to stop recording?
No, it's fine. It's only teachers, not students.
Right.
So if let's say here, I could add another person by going to the three dots, add a member. I'm not, and then I would type in their name. In a student team, also in a class team, it would have the option between student and teacher. So make sure that you add them as a student, and anyone added as a student will automatically get their own section in their OneNote book. It sometimes takes a little bit, so it might not appear straight away. So in some cases it took like a day to appear, but maybe that was just a bad connection. Sometimes it has appeared within 1 minute that you just got a new student in here. So don't add them in OneNote, but add them in the team. And as long as your OneNote book is linked to your team, which it should be if you set it up through there, then it will automatically appear. But they won't have any of the things that you've given out so far. So you would have to copy everything over into their section from the teacher only, or from the content library, or wherever you've created the content. You just need to copy it over. But you can copy several things at a time. So let's say I want them to have all these worksheets. I can just hold down Control to select them all, and then I can just copy them. And let's say I want them to be in here. I can just go in there, click on that gray area here under the Untitled page, and right click and paste them in, and it's done all 3 pages at the same time. So you can do loads. I don't know. I don't think you can just copy the whole section, because it will kind of create a new section. So if I copy the handout section and put it in hers, I think she would end up with 2 handout sections, which isn't ideal. So I would only copy pages, but I don't know. Anyone think I'm wrong about that?
I think you're right, Julia.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So
Interesting.
so that's when you have a student joining your class. If you've got a student leaving your class, so if they're moving to a different class in the same school, so for example a different set, moving from the top set to the bottom set or whatever, it would be good for them to take the things they already have with them into their new class. I think the easiest way would be to get the new teacher to join your team as a teacher. Then they have access to your notebook, and then they could copy all those folders into their own class notebook. So that's the only way. You can't really send it to anyone who's not in that class. So the other teacher would have to join, or the student can do it as well if they're a member of both teams already. So when they've already joined the new class, they could copy over the things themselves. So that's another way, depending how organized your students are and how good they are at this. And then once they've copied everything, so you're sure they don't need it anymore, then you can delete it. And that, well, you can delete them from your team by changing the members, but also you need to then delete their folder. So let's say she's left, Chloe has left my team, then I would right click and delete section group, and it would delete all the different sections that are in there. So everything, unit 1, class notes, and so on, it's all gone. So really make sure that you save it first and that the student doesn't need it anymore. If you just want to, you can close a notebook. So let's say you're teaching one term of French and then the next term you're teaching Spanish with a different class and you don't need the French notebook anymore. You click on the title of the notebook here and then go to close this notebook. That does not delete it. So it's still there and you can always open it again, but it means it doesn't appear in your list anymore and it won't take up so much space on your device because it doesn't constantly try to sync all the pages and it won't download all the content that's in there. So close the notebook, and then if you close one by mistake, you can just click on the list here, go down here and go to more notebooks, and then in there you will find all the notebooks that you've ever had, basically, that you ever had access to, and you can open it up again. So that's an easy way of closing it there. Okay. Any questions about that part?
Did any of the moderators pick up anybody else? I think people were very helpfully just dealing with some as we went. So really sad face from Laura. So I can't copy it across. You have to be part of the team which you are copying.
Either the other teacher lets you join or you let them join to copy.
And I also say this is Laura Simmons is talking about an issue that actually we've got in our school, and it's the fact that we all created our OneNote into OneNote, not within Teams, because our school has not set up Teams properly. All our children are guests, basically. We don't have it set it up properly. We have now having it set it up properly, but you can't now copy the OneNotes that you created in OneNote with Microsoft 365 across Teams, which is a real pain. So
because one is stored in your OneDrive and one is stored in SharePoint, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So what we have is two complete different systems. Still is working. Okay, yes, they could use Laura, that still is working. I'm working with that every day, and my whole school is. And we're using Teams basically to project the lessons for the chat, to share things, but then we're using OneNote underneath, and the kids have to open it in through their app or Microsoft 365. But I think that's why it's so important when you create the OneNote that you create it through Teams and not through Microsoft 365 or the OneNote app. Sorry, Julia, I just wanted to. That is a huge. Once it's done, you cannot copy it across.
Yeah, no, that's a problem. Yeah.
Well, but can I just check that you could copy if you own both of them? You can copy, can't you? Because I've managed to do that. I think from a copy that I had in my own OneDrive, I was able to copy that to my Teams version, but I had to do it, if you like, manually. There was no.
I couldn't copy the students. My students' stuff, it comes always as an error.
The students, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so I could copy the things I didn't go into the library, but I couldn't copy the students' stuff there. And I tried with the people in the IT department, and it always comes as an error. It seems that it's doing it, but then it crashes. And imagine with all the students we've got, and we haven't managed. Maybe there is a way. So if someone there finds it.
Yeah, the students themselves could do it because they've got access to both.
Yeah, so maybe everyone can do their own thing, but obviously sometimes you cannot trust the students. You know, you would like to do like a whole OneNote. It created so many issues that we're doing it now in two separate ways. It's working fine, but it's not integrated into Teams. But it defeats the purpose, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so now about sections. So to create a new section, you just go down here and go to section. But if you want it to be created in all the students' notebooks, make sure you use distribute new section, because only if you do it this way, you will be able to then distribute pages into them. So now the question is, what if I want to rename all their sections? So don't go in here and just rename it. I mean, I could rename this unit 1 family or whatever, but when I then want to hand out a new page, it won't show it as this name, and it just causes confusion really. So what you need to go is go to manage notebook, which is up there, and this will take you to a website, weirdly. So it's taking you out of OneNote and it's taking you into this. Hopefully I'm not giving away my things here. It's my email. So now it's taking me into my drive where it's stored. And here you can see all the unit names that I've created. So here I can then call it family and save. I can also create more sections here, which should then appear for all the students. So let's try that out. Unit 4, save. What is very annoying is you can't delete sections. So if once you've made too many, unfortunately, you can only change the name. You can't delete them. But what you kind of need to do in that case is you could just give it a random name. Let's say we don't need unit 3. I just call it other. So there's one I don't really need. And then I can delete it in the student's own folders, but it will still always show up if I'm trying to hand out pages. So if I go back in here, hasn't quite created that unit 4 yet, but it should appear at some point. Let's see if I sync it. So this is what I meant earlier. If you click on a notebook name here, you can, you can sync, sync. Let's see if it pushes out. Ah, yeah, there we go. So now unit 4 has appeared and unit 3 is now called other. So I can now delete it here because it's one I've got too many. So this time, in this case, you have to kind of do it manually, which is a bit annoying. And when I go into distribute a page now, it will still show up. So over here, this other will always be there. And I don't think there's any way of getting rid of it. But what I've only discovered today actually is if you click here, in case you've changed the names or added more to it and they don't all show, there's this little refresh button, which is quite useful. So now, just be careful. If I distribute a page into the folder called other, it will automatically create it again in all the students' books, which can sometimes be annoying if you've got 2 folders or 2 sections that have very similar names and you keep on putting in the wrong one, it keeps on recreating it and then you keep on deleting it, which is kind of what happened to me. So now it's handed it out. Let's see if I sync this again. It probably has. Yeah, there we go. Now in Antonio's notebook, now we've got that stupid other folder again. So just make sure that you rename it to something that you know this is one you don't want to use. You could even call it don't use or whatever, and then delete it manually from all the students. Or if you're really clever, you just think maybe there's a unit 5 that I want to use at some point. So let's just rename unit 3 into unit 5. So yeah, hopefully you find another use for it and just name it my sticker page or something. So you got some use for it. Okay, any questions about that?
Can you, Julia, people asking, can you show again how to create a section within a section? So also someone was saying that they saw this really nice homepage, which I don't know that, and they were saying that how do you get that? So there's the 2 questions. That really nice homepage.
Homepage. Do they mean?
I don't know what the.
Maybe that was the manage your notebook thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's possible. Sorry, that was me. It looked so neat and clean, and I couldn't understand it.
I'm not sure which one you mean.
It just said it was on a purple background. It just said my OneNote, and that's where you edited your own sections, but it was really big.
Yeah, this, you mean in the website here where
Yes.
you've got all the different,
That one.
this one.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is when you go to manage notebook.
Okay.
So now I'm outside of OneNote. Instead, I'm in OneDrive now. In OneDrive now.
Okay, I'll try to find that later. Thank you.
Yeah, so I can show you again. So if you're in OneNote, is that little notebook symbol at the top here.
And it's white there, and sometimes it's black, isn't it? Am I right?
Yeah, I think if you're within Teams, maybe, then it's black. And yeah, so this is where you add things. There is a section here for add, remove teachers and students, but that won't work if you've created it through Teams. So in that case, it will just tell you, go and change it on Teams. So I can't actually, so yeah. So all the notebooks it's showing me here are all the bad ones that I've created outside of Teams. So it won't work with the ones that are linked up to Teams. So
I do the bad ones.
Well, the sample ones, the trial ones.
And I think on mine it actually appears, because I've done very bad ones as well, but it's actually got the word Teams now next to the good ones. I know which the good ones are. Yeah, that's maybe, have you renamed them so you know? No, I think it may be that, no, I didn't do that. That must be a setting in by the tech team that they've done. Yeah, yeah, like in our tech team where they've put all our names next to it. So I always know that the ones with Morris J next to it, they are the official ones, because that's how they set it up. Yeah. And Rachel, you've asked about the collaboration. We are going to go on to that as another topic. I don't know if we're going to have time tonight because we've only got 7 minutes. So we're going to. Oh dear. Still lots more trouble to shoot. The whole point of this is to go at our pace that we want. Yeah. It's a workshop. So I think probably we'll do collaboration probably next week, if that's okay. Is that going to be right for you, Adeline? Because you were going to do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then we're not rushing at all. Yeah.
Okay, so they are the kind of the more organizational things. Shall I quickly talk about a few problems that might come up with actual pages?
Yeah, and it's going to be next Wednesday. Yeah, I think problems, let's stick with problems, because in a way we can, if we have problems that we can't get into it, then we can't do all the other fancy stuff we want to do.
Yes.
Is that all right, everybody?
Yeah. So shall I carry on with problems?
Everybody, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So first of all, a really easy one, but it can save you so much time. Let's say you've got this page, and then you change your mind, and you don't want this grammar in there anymore. And well, most of the time it moves it up. But if it was, let's say, it's down here. So let's say I get rid of the summary, and now I've got this giant gap there. Obviously, you don't want to have to move up all the things that are underneath it. There is a really easy trick. If you go to draw and go to this double lines with arrows and then go onto the page, go in where the gap is and just drag it up, and everything that's underneath it will be dragged up. So if let's say I put this here as well, if I do this, both of them get dragged up, and it just kind of deletes that extra space. And you can do it the other way around. Let's say you realize, oh, I didn't leave the students any space to write in. Oh, let's just squeeze this in there, and there's extra space. And you can even do it sideways as well. So you could move everything to the side for them to write on this side.
Could you do that again and very, very slowly for me?
Okay, so it's in the draw tab up here. Yeah. And it's this double lines with arrows. I don't know how to describe it. The squeezy button, the pushy squeezy button. And you go, it will show you the arrows there. You can see the black arrow. At the moment, I can only create space downwards. But if I go in the middle, I could either delete space and pull it up, or I can make more space by pulling it down.
And that space where people can write or can't write?
Yeah, yeah. It's just that, yes, they can write now. Yes. No. So this is really useful if you've prepared a page and you just want to add extra things, but don't want to move all the things that you've got separately, especially if you're using a lot of kind of separate boxes, then it can be very annoying if you've got everything in different text boxes or something, or you've got lots of handwritten stuff already on there, because that's the nice thing. If I have handwriting on here, it will also move that all down. But it will stay kind of on the worksheet there, which is quite handy.
And thinking about it,
mess it up.
This is
because if I just move this, if I go back, so if I just move this, then it would mess up my handwriting and my highlighting and so on.
And these tricks that we're learning, it'd be quite good to tell students this as well, wouldn't it?
Yes, yeah.
For them to know how to sort out things and move things and.
Yeah. Then another trick is if students want to, so you tell students, oh, insert me an audio or insert me a picture. So you want the students to record themselves, for example. They often say, oh, it's not showing up. So sometimes it will be grayed out. I can't really show it on here. Maybe it's more a problem when they're on iPads, that the buttons won't be accessible. And the reason for that is that they need to first click onto the page and tell it where do you want to put that audio. And then, so do you want it over here or do you want it there? And then you can start recording things, or then you can, well, it won't work now because I'm on the call, but, or then you will be able to insert a picture. I think it looks like on a computer, it's not really a problem, but on iPads, always tell them where, and then you can add it in. Okay. Another problem is with dark mode, and this really did our head in last lockdown because we just couldn't work out what the problem was. So if you're writing on a page, so let's say here we've got our white worksheet and a white background, and I just write black there. So with the mouse, it's a bit hard, so I write black there. Okay. If a student is working in dark mode, either on their iPad, or you can have dark mode in here as well. Just turn it to dark mode. So dark, there we go, which is actually better for your eyes. But can you see what the problem is? So how dark mode works is always inverts the color. So everything that's normally black is then white, and everything that's white is black. So in this case, where I've written it in black, it's turned it into white. So on the black background, that's fine, but on the worksheet, that's a problem. So if the teacher, let's say, was using a dark mode, he wouldn't really realize that actually down here, oops, let's do it with this, that here, there is this writing there because it's white on white. Oh, and it's the other way around. If the student works in, let's say the student works here, and for them it looks black, so they're writing, yes, it's this one. Okay, so they're making these crosses. But if I now go as a teacher, I'm in the light mode. Let's go back. Okay, so now the crosses are invisible because they're white on white. I can just about make out, but that really confused us, that the students were saying, oh, I wrote it all on the worksheet, and the teachers are like, well, where is it? I can't see anything. So really the solution for that is either the teacher needs to use the same mode as the student, or tell the students to use a different color, because if they just use blue, then you don't have that problem, because blue will still be blue even if I change it now to dark mode. So just discourage them from using black and white, basically, and then it will always be visible. Okay.
Good advice.
Any questions?
Can we just say we do understand if people need to go, because I know the MFL chat is starting now. Yes. So, I mean, one thing we had said was that I don't mind staying behind afterwards. If anyone's got any desperate, urgent questions, we are here. Is there anything else you want to say, though, Julia, before?
I've got two more really short ones. Shall I just
Yes.
quickly finish them
Yeah,
off?
we totally understand if people need, we don't want
Yes,
to
no,
quote
absolutely.
from the MFL chat. That's, I'm quite anxious that we don't.
Yes. No, absolutely not. So two things I've noticed, namely, if you're copying and pasting text, let me find something with text on it, blah, blah, blah. Let's say I want this text here. It sometimes doesn't let me go onto another page, which actually now it did, but sometimes it just wouldn't let me click on it. And the easy solution is just to click escape and then go onto the other page, and then you can insert it there. Then the second one is, if you insert a link into your page, if students are working in draw mode, so if they're using like an Apple Pencil or something similar, or if they've got like a touch screen and working on there, so if they're in this and then try to click on a link, it often doesn't let them click. I'm not sure, I've got a link somewhere now. It just kind of doesn't work. So you just need to remind them that they need to go back into text mode here, and then they can click on the link and it will take them to the right page. So just, yeah, just remind them, don't click with the pen onto the link, but with the text mode, and then they won't have that problem. Okay, that's it, the two quick ones.
That's really good. Thank you ever so much, Julia. Excellent. And I know that, you know, we said at the beginning we were going to do that. We were going to do inserting all sorts of things.
3 more things.
But in a way, the whole point is, I've said, it's a workshop, and it's, we don't want anyone to feel under pressure. And if you need to have something explained, and honestly, we have all learned so much from this, haven't we? I know it's just those of us who feel there's, oh, loads of things. That black mode, because I was wondering how Jérôme had it all black, what was happening going on there. A number of bits of work that I've probably returned wrongly.
I understand
saying,
Julia's.
you haven't written anything.
I understand Julia's point now also about the blue, because I tried yesterday and I said, well, it's fine.
Yeah, on a normal
it's all
page
white.
it's fine. It's just the problem when you have a white worksheet in it. But yeah, that's why we tried it with just a normal page, and we're like, oh, but it works. You can see the black on black and so on. So at first we were all accusing the students of not doing the work until we finally figured it out.
That's an excellent point, and that's great.
Okay, so I mean, I'll still keep it going, shall I, the recording, just because there are some other questions. If anybody needs to go now, that's absolutely fine. So that's the end of what so next week we're definitely going to do, we'll do inserting things into pages, which will include things like audio, but it sounds as if we've got a desperate A&E situation here we have to deal with on listening. And we'll do the collaborative pages next week. And there, I know Adeline's already prepared something. So rather than making anyone rush through it, do other things before then. And we're doing it's next Wednesday. And the link is exactly the same to, well, is it? There's an Eventbrite link where it takes you to a page which says choose your date. So we've already put in the Wednesday one there. And then we're thinking, we're still deciding, aren't we, what the next one, so it could be the following 2 Mondays, but we're just going to check on everybody's availability.
Yeah, I mean, at least some of the things about inserting different type of media is already in the PowerPoint, so people can start having a look at that.
And Lucy, yes, it's always the same Zoom link. I sometimes forget to change the date on it, so you might get a message saying that it's finished, this meeting. It will never finish. We'll always be here, I think, sorting out OneNote. Forever and ever on my Zoom account, there will be. So don't ever be put off. You know, it'll be my fault. So it'll definitely be this link every time. So if anyone needs to go, that's fine. But the outstanding questions we had were someone to find about section groups, how to create section groups. And the other thing was about listening and making sure that everybody can listen. Should we do this section? I've forgotten who was it. Sabine was asking about listening. So should we just do about yes, and Helen, all of the links are on the ARR London page. So I'll get a link now into the chat. So should we start with listening, Julia?
Are there the links to the PowerPoints as well on the website? From the last time, I mean.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I think so. I'll check.
Okay.
I'll just look.
That was quite good. Otherwise, I can send them to you again later. And then...
So Sabine, if you want to, you're here, Sabine, are you? Yes. If you want to open up your webcam and talk and say what the problem is, and here's
yeah,
Dr.
hello,
Morris.
I'm here.
Dr. Morris.
But before everybody goes, can I quickly put in my code in the chat as well? So if people could put the code into Microsoft, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
I was going to show you all. I'll do it next. I've got a certificate now.
Oh.
Because I've had training from you. I printed it
Yay.
and I was going to show it off today. That I'm a Microsoft I'm a Microsoft innovative educator.
Oh wow, well
I
done.
haven't given any training all through coming to
Very
you.
good. Very good. Yes, and it's a different code from last time. So if you've done it last time, it would be great if you could do it again. Every hour counts. Thank you. Okay, so what was the problem with the sound?
Okay, so thank you very much for tonight. Lots of really useful tips. So we record our, so we do like, for example, listening exercise and record our voices onto the class notebook.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so week on week we distribute via Teams. So half of the student can hear and complete the task and half of the student can't, and it's not always the same. So sometimes we are thinking, are you working in the app? Are you working in the browser? Do you have an iPad?
Yeah.
But it's not always the same who have the issues. And for example, last week, my colleague Becky, who is here tonight, recorded herself and then couldn't hear herself on the app or on the browser. I could hear the recording, so I knew it was there. And then some students did the task and some didn't. So we don't know how to troubleshoot.
How do you record it?
So insert audio, like the class notebook, insert audio.
Yeah.
So we're almost thinking now we're going to use Vocaro and paste the link. But it seems a shame because the device is here and should be.
Yeah. I'm not really sure if it's some can hear it and some can't. I don't know if the others have any ideas.
I've got the same issue sometimes. So I mean, I'm live, so it's not such a big deal. I basically now just play I tried the other day, I did exactly that. I'd set up a listening, I'd recorded myself. I said, well, I'll send you off. And then they kept coming back on saying I can't hear, well, not all of them. So I just now do it through my computer, share the sound. Yeah, but it sounds like it's a problem with, I would say it's a problem with their device or their settings rather than OneNote itself. But I don't know.
I mean, just to say, the way that I share listening is by making a video of the listening and putting it on Microsoft Stream, and then everybody can definitely get it. So they click on the link and it opens up the stream.
Yeah, I'm just trying. So I found a page here where there's an audio recording, and if you right click on it, it says save save as. So I guess you could then save it.
Yeah, as an MP4. I've done that once or twice.
Yeah.
But.
And then you save it onto the cloud, and then you need to make sure that you set the sharing options to everyone in the school can.
Because for some students, they can click and listen, and some students they've got to download it.
Yeah.
And so, so it's not, and that's why I don't really understand, because no one gets the same issue.
Yeah. But it's not even the same students every week that have the problem.
No.
But I think the way through it really is that you put the audio in the SharePoint and then you link to it, because then when they click on the link, it opens up its little player. I don't really understand what I'm talking about. It was nice that people said it clear earlier. I don't really understand. It's like a fairy story. But basically they click on it and then that opens up.
And so do you embed your stream into your OneNote?
So I've just got a link. I'll try and find one if you like.
And does it embed into your OneNote page or?
Well, no, and this is what we're going to come on to this next week. We certainly had a very, very strong recommendation from the people who set us up with Teams and from our tech team. Just don't embed stuff in pages because it causes problems like the problem you're saying. And also by making the pages far too data rich, it's going to clog things up if you've got too much stuff actually in the page.
I think we have that issue.
If possible, you put a link and they click the link and it'll open up the, as Julia said, make sure that whatever it is that you're sharing is set to be able to share with everybody. It opens up a little player. I do it with I'll open it up now if you like, just to show you what.
Oh yeah, please.
I just tried saving an audio file and it's saved as an M4A file. So not MP4, but M4A. So that seems kind of a weird file format, and that's maybe why some computers can't open it while others can. But then it's weird that they can open it some weeks and some, I mean, I don't know if they changed their device, record it as well, and then you can just watch it on there.
Recording now.
Okay, okay. So how to record with PowerPoint. So people might not realize that you can record, but you don't need to actually record the PowerPoint. So you can record anything that's on your screen. So you could record your OneNote page or Word document or whatever you want. Okay. So when you're on, am I screen sharing now?
No.
No, sorry, I'll do that and then you can see what I'm doing. Okay, sorry, here we go. Okay, so when I'm in PowerPoint, the very first time you kind of need to set it up that it comes up at the top. So for that, you go to File, Options, Customize the ribbon. And then in the main tabs here, you go down and find Recording and check that. I think you can also just put in recording in the search box, but if you don't want to do that every time, you can add it. So now I've got the recording button here in the top. And so when I click on there, it then asks, do I want to record the slideshow? So that would then just play the slideshow and I can speak over it. But for mine, it always seems to crash the PowerPoint. So I haven't actually used that successfully, but I guess in theory it should work. What I'm using is the screen recording. So I go in there and I just choose, so it's automatically closed the PowerPoint and it's taken me to whatever window I was in before. So in this case, OneNote, I can just choose if I want to record all of it. There we go. And then I just click record at the top, where I can then also pause it. And yeah, I don't think I can do it now because I'm already on the Zoom call. But the good thing is, well, I can just try it out. Let's see. Okay, so count me in.
Okay, well.
Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's my OneNote page and I'm explaining it. Good. Now I stop it. And now when I go back to that PowerPoint, here we go. It's inserted it already into that page. So that PowerPoint page I was in before. So it's better to do it on an empty one, obviously. It's made that video. So at the bottom here, you see it has the play button. So I could just play my blah blah, and if I right click, then I can go to Save Media As, and then I could just put it onto my drive. So let's say I want to share it with my students. I would put it in here, save, and then I can go back into there in my file. Let's find it. What was it called? Media something. Media one. Oh, it was not called that. There you go. Let's find that. No. Okay, but from here, well, let's say it was this file. I could then right click, share, and then I would need to make sure that I change it to everyone in my school, and I would turn off editing, apply, and then I can copy the link, and then I could go back into OneNote and then just paste it in there, and they should be able to play that file because it's on my OneDrive now. It's not, well, it is on SharePoint because all my school files are on SharePoint. So they won't see a preview of it, but at least they can then click on it and play it in a separate browser, and it wouldn't take up any space there, hopefully. But it would ask them to log in because only people in my school are allowed to watch this video. So they would have to. Okay, yeah. Well, this was a different file, so it doesn't have a picture. Yes. So you can record anything with PowerPoint.
Shall I finally just show how I insert the audio for my sixth woman? That was what you were saying about just audio. But I think it's really,